Tango Fiesta before this talk was announced. Alright, cool. Doing the job right. So I'm going to talk a little bit, probably quite quickly. I've got a lot of slides to go through. Basically, I'm going to sort of just talk about how Spilt Studios arrived at Tango Fiesta, and then how we got a publishing deal, and then some hopes for the future. There are also lots of really, really subtle 80s references laced through it. So see if you can spot them and shout out if you really want to see. So first of all, I'm Andrew Smith, for those of you who didn't cheer at the start. I founded Spilt Studios 4 years ago almost. Birthday's on the 24th, I believe, of this month, so it's next week. And yeah, I've been making games for a while, over a decade. It's terrible when lumps of time have like words for them. Not just 10 years, it's a decade. That's like a really long time. So yeah, I'm just going to skip through it, but I'm Andrew, and we've got another member of the Tango Fiesta team in the front row. There is that's Gavin, who's our audio guy, and he's basically like a pig in shit at the minute, because he just gets to make 80s noises all day long. So that's me, but you know that because I'm me as well. That's Spilt Studios. That is Aberdeen, Dundee, where I learned how to make games in theory. And these are some of the companies that I've worked for in the past 10 years. Sort of in order there. So Hasbro Interactive is a learning QA tester, running exactly the same. Visual Science, level designer, and then designer. Real-time worlds as a designer. Proper Games is the only designer, and then that's when I left to form Spilt Studios. So some of the games I worked on: Extreme G3, Crackdown 2 DLC. What's that? APB. Flock, that was like the big break with Capcom at Proper Games. I was the designer on that. We had a creative director above me. I don't mean like I was in charge of everything, but there you go. And Final Fight Double Impact, which is the one I'm personally most proud of, because Final Fight is one of the sort of games that defined my childhood. And I'm saying all this because I think you guys want a little bit of context about how I've come to be as an indie, and then hopefully the success that we're going to have with Tango Fiesta, we'll see just how successful. And then 3 games that I made. One of them was not out, may never be at Spilt Studios. So there's Crunch there, which was for my accountants. That was the first game I made as an indie studio, so baby steps here. Hardlines, which I co-created with Nicole Hunt, and that actually did pretty well. And then Smash the Buck, which just kept on keeping on and still hasn't come out. And maybe it will, fingers crossed, we'll see. And then we also made a game called Hugatron, which isn't available to play. It's more of a festival game. It's not just 2 people standing around hugging. You actually have like a computerized sort of twister wheel that defines how you hug and this sort of thing. There are 3 game modes, all that kind of fun. Tomb, which was a jam game, essentially that me and the coder, well, myself and Andrew Roper, the coder, worked on Hugatron, worked on this. This is an Oculus Rift sort of first-person maze game where, if I put the right side in? No, I didn't. So there's essentially for Game City last year, there were massive screens, and the idea was there was a top-down screen, a view of the map with the player and monster locations on it, and the person in the Oculus Rift has no weapons and just has to survive for as long as possible, off of the commands and the help that the audience had communicated to them. So that was quite good fun. This is Lazarus, which is literally 1 day away from submission, but that 1 day happened to be after we signed the contract for Tango Fiesta. So that 1 day is going to happen at some point, we just don't know when. But that's a 2-stick, a no-stick shooter, sorry, for iPad, that myself and Andrew Roper worked on. And that will come out this year, as will Tango Fiesta, because we're contractually obliged to. So, to Tango Fiesta, the reason hopefully you wanted to hear me talk for 20-30 minutes. Tango Fiesta is all about the 80s, it's about celebrating the 80s. And I won't go into too much detail because I do have a video at some point, but the 1980s mean different things to different people, but I think there's some broad strokes that sort of summarise the appeal. So there's fashion in inverted commas. There's music, not in inverted commas. I mean, MTV, you could do like a whole conference on how much impact MTV had, and the music as well. Video games, and that was video games back then. You didn't have them in your house. I mean, you had some, but it wasn't quite the same thing. If you wanted the latest, greatest, you went down to Brighton Pier and put 50p in the slot or whatever, and played the game for maybe 10 seconds before you died. For us, for Tango Fiesta, these two in particular are kind of ones that we sort of use as touchstones, I suppose. We essentially want to make the new Gauntlet, but sort of coloured like Robotron, if that makes any sense. Maybe it will by the end of the time. And of course movies, and that's where the sort of real look to Tango Fiesta comes in. The 80s is just, I mean, it's a whole decade. It's 10 years of classic films, and I mean, there's for some reason just more so than the 70s, more so than the 90s. You know, they were both decades. They both had loads of movies, but for some reason the 80s sort of resonates with, you know, the video game generation, and I think it resonates with people who weren't necessarily born in the 80s or weren't old enough to watch these movies in the 80s. I think it sort of extends beyond that. So that's something that we were planning on with Tango Fiesta. Specifically, basically this about 80s movies. You know, specifically this. Broadly, these guys, action heroes. You know, it was the decade of the action hero, and you know, that's one of the great things about video games is being an action hero. But you know, really mostly about this particular. And for anyone who's wondering, that isn't Freddie Mercury. Okay, you need to work with this movie. So yeah, our story, much like the movies that we're sort of homaging and referencing, I feel like we've got a bit of a story, and this is where all the not heavy-handed at all references come into it. So the team, we're basically the Turtles. That was 1980s. There's four of us. We're all, you know, ninjas in our own special way, and we all like pizza too. So yeah, there you go. Really, really thorough, solid link there to the Turtles. The jam. Now, this is where I all tab out. I'll go totally wrong. Oh no, here we go. Right. So bear with me. This should work. So this is from Res last year. This is how Tango was born. Hello.
Okay, you got 5 minutes to go.
Okay, so this is us, this is Legion of the Jam. We got briefed with the 80s, and that basically meant one thing to the four guys on our team, who are myself, Andrew, Code, Andrew. We've got wonderful sound man Gavin down the front there, and you and Let's Rock. Give him a wave, there we go. So, yes, the 80s meant one thing to us.
So I could have just at this point done this as well, but I think I'll just do the video. It's more glamorous. I realise I've just covered this bit as well.
It's kind of a running theme. But this is the most important. Predator. So, more specifically what the 80s meant to us, and our game, is this. So we really wanted to play that.
Yes, we did.
And we're banking that hopefully you guys want to play it as well. So to us, the 80s is all about action heroes. Maybe they're not so relevant anymore, but one time they had their glory days. It's also about big burly men with massive guns shooting lots of plants, and maybe some bad guys.
There you go. So I've just done that all again, but I felt like I was cheating. So I cheated more by just showing you the video. So, coming back to the slide. Right, here we go. So, the Jam at Res last year was run by Creative Assembly. It was very much like Highlander, because there could be only one winner. Yes, it is. It gets worse, and essentially, you know, 6 teams, more than 6 teams applied, 6 teams got chosen, and we had 8 hours to make a game. We genuinely didn't know what the theme was going to be, but as they were about to announce the team, we've jammed before, we were like, right, what playlist do we listen to? Because, you know, like, Spotify's great, and you work better with music in those sort of high stress environments. And we were all like, 80s music, cool, awesome, brilliant, let's just do it. And then they announced the 80s as a thing, and it was like, this could go really well. It just seemed really serendipitous. So, away we went. And much like our key inspiration, Predator, there was a crack team of people working on a game They didn't make me game Predator, what was I talking about? But they did, the games got picked off one by one by the evil, invisible alien judges. That's my incredibly weak link to Predator. We thought that the jam was child's play. See, it does feel us. We thought winning was a sure thing. But sadly, we were not to be Top Gun that day. It's alright, you can grow and leave.
How long do you spend looking for these posters?
Longer than I care to admit, I guess. So we didn't win the laptops, it's fine, but we like to think that we won the audience award because we got the most laughs and the biggest round of applause. Honest God. So we thought, let's carry on with this. We've hit on something here, just as a game. You know, there wasn't a lot to it, but there was enough that we thought maybe we should carry on. I guess you could say I asked the guys to stand by me. So it felt a bit like Ghostbusters, in that we were kind of four guys doing what we love. There's not a lot of money involved. We're just kind of winging it, really, and seeing what happens. It all worked out for them in the end, so fingers crossed it all for us. And that was essentially what it looked like at the end of the jam, at the end of 8 hours of work. So there's a decade of relevance that's based on your actions within the game, and as a superhero like this, an action hero, how long you would stay relevant. And a body count, because who cares about score, it's all about body count. So that was it, and we added all kinds of things. So the fire was something, propagation, that we added in these subsequent jams, blood and gore, and as a result, sort of tongue-in-cheek, movie reference, difficulty select screen. Vehicle levels that sometimes did not work, and sometimes did. So we added boats, we added jeeps, and we added helicopters. We added more movies, so things like Tron. The first one was still Predator. This is Tron in inverted commas. It was Mad Max maybe. And we added buildings and the sort of random level generation. Now you can see it not working quite as well. And then we added sort of a much more sort of procedurally driven system. So it would just spit out random walls. It wasn't a lot of fun, but it was interesting. It was all a bit of a risky business because we were all doing this off the back of our own passion for the project. I'm really sorry. It sounded better. But we did decide that we should pitch it to some companies. Pitching. I don't know if anyone here has pitched either sort of as another company or as your own like indie self, but it's much like in They Live, where you can see something that no one else can, and genuinely. You have to get all these people who really don't care to put the damn glasses on. And it's tough, it's really, really tough. We spoke to at least 4, Curve Rip's own developer, Master Rank. They're all great. I was going to kind of be mean about them and say, oh, it's a real hard time, pitching, it's really emotional, it's a bit of a nightmare. But they said no, so was it game over? I don't know. We got a lot of no's, and they were polite no's, and if I hadn't had a decade of experience getting no's, I would have thought maybe they were yeses. All by Master trying, to be honest. They were like, show us some more. Everyone else was a very, very polite no, but they never say no. This is probably the biggest tip I've got for indies. It's just, if someone doesn't say yes, then it's a no. You spend so much time and money chasing a maybe, and they're just not interested. They're just not interested. Anyway, so, it was a bit of a raw deal. But like the Ghostbusters, we came back. We thought, you know what, Mastertronic are genuinely interested. We're gonna maybe chase this dream that no one else kind of, thinks is relevant anymore. Does anyone actually want this game? And we wanted it, so we thought let's just carry on. Let's give it one last push and see what people say. Indiana Jones, it's that moment where he knows there's a trap. He's got his bag of sand and his golden idol. And he just thinks, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go for it. It might be the riskiest thing he's going to do, but sod it. And so we grabbed that idol and the boulder started rolling. We weren't really sure it was going to go. So this is a very quick video, hopefully, of the difference you'll hopefully see with again, me talking over it.
Okay, hopefully, yeah. So we've all dropped in safe. You can see that we've got buildings in.
But not directional shooting.
And my co-worker's doing a jig. It looks like a good and bad it's stuck, but that's a bug. These things are full of bugs. Hey, it's fine. What you can see is the animation implemented with the player that I sent over from Ewan. And you can see a lot of the props and the updated sort of background graphics that he supplied as well, based off of the sort of target render that we did. Obviously, we haven't really had the time to do all 8 or perhaps 16 angles of movement and shooting as animations because it's quite a detailed, labour-intensive process, as you know.
So basically, I mean, that's not just me being lazy again. That is an excerpt from a video that I put together. We commentated over. We added online 4-player co-op to the game in like less than a week. It's buggy as hell, and we've rewritten the whole damn thing from scratch when we started. But it was important to demonstrate that actually, despite everything, despite the framing, how many movies we wanted to reference, how we understood the 80s and action games, the key bit of this was the multiplayer, and that was kind of the one thing that we hadn't really addressed in any of the previous pitches. We'd said, yeah, we're going to do it, yeah, of course we will, it's a multiplayer game, of course, but actually demonstrating that it was working in real life. This was like a 10-minute long video of 4 of us playing multiple games and it not crashing. And I think that sort of, it didn't just demonstrate, okay, they can kind of deliver on what they're promising. It demonstrates that, well, hell, we just did this on our own. Like, you didn't ask for it, the passion and the belief sort of, hopefully, sort of was demonstrated at a much higher level to how it had been before. So, back to my hilarious slides. But the waiting game is a bit like Gremlins. Is it going to turn out hunky-dory or is it going to turn ugly? We just didn't know. It was genuinely a risk to do this. And I was asking people, Ewan's got a mortgage and 2 kids and a wife, and he's trying to spend his evenings, contributing what he can to this project on the off chance that someone gives us some money to carry on making it. So it could have gone a bit horrible. So I'll show you some sort of the development we went through as well from the target render that I mentioned in that previous video. So this was sort of step 1. You can see there's obviously a lot of improvement over the original res version. And we were careful to try and make all of these things with in-game assets, or at least assets we will be using in the game. So everything's like the tiles are of the right size, everything is applicable to the engine, if not actually taken from a still of the game. This was the end result, so this is sort of, this is what we're going to target. So that plus that video is what got us, is what we pitched, and as you all know, got us the deal. And I mean, it just demonstrates some of the sort of the core elements that we weren't able to kind of throw into the prototype because they were small, but obviously nice to kind of show. So you've got the team score, that sort of will be translated into the different elements. You've got 4 players HUDs, you've got weapon swapping, you've got ammo counts, you've got health bars and stamina bars, and then experience bars as well, the little yellow ones. You've got a guy throwing a grenade, a guy reloading, a guy sprinting, a guy shooting. You've got multiple enemy types and an objective, indoors, outdoors. So it's like that's hopefully right there, that's the game. And if you don't want to play that, then don't give us money to make it, basically. The one thing we did do was go, it's too big, let's make the guy smaller. So, as you can see, there we go. There just wasn't room for 4 people and all the enemies that you would require for it to be fun on the screen. And actually, you'll see that we took it even smaller. So, yes, we got the guy to put on the glasses and see what we can see. There you go. But you need that because it says not to try and get a start, so it's a bit of a spoiler there. Anyway, but the real development started, and it was a pretty big day. There's less laughs. I mean, I don't understand. This isn't going how I was expecting. Anyway, we did honestly feel a little bit like kids in a sweetie shop. We're all born in the 80s. The whole team. We all love the 80s. We all love all the action movies, although, Rover had been lying about how many he'd actually seen. Turns out he had not seen Robocop until a week ago. The original as well. But yeah, we're just getting to muck around with a multiplayer game, an action game, something that we all love and have played loads of, but set in a world where we get to just show how much we adore this era, and someone was giving us money to do it. It just seems bonkers to us. Also, it felt a little bit like the Kids and Goonies, because all of a sudden we've gone from, this would be a great adventure, and then all of a sudden you go on it and there's actual traps that might kill you, and there are, things like banks getting in the way of being able to pay people on time, and all this kind of crazy stuff, big adult, problems that we just sort of didn't really think about at the time. And as with all good development, there's a team of people fighting bugs. I would have gone for Starship Troopers 5 minutes, but that wasn't the 80s. So and also there's the incredible chance of us building something that comes back in time and destroys us, because we've made all these promises. There are so many. It's a little bit like Back to the Future Part 2, we're revisiting something. We're trying to make a good out of it, but without ruining what made it great in the first place. This jam game was this singular thing, this event, and then we're trying to make this whole other project out of it, and there's a massive risk that by making it a real game with real features, things people expect, that we maybe miss the point of what made the original fun. We might basically mess with our own sort of history. And as an aside, don't we all wish we could dress like that next year? Because that's really amazing. We want the game to become something of a legend. Yeah, I went there. We're creating a labyrinth of features that will hopefully quite a lot of
Is he expected to get this room alive?
And this is the final sort of. We're nearly there, don't worry. This is the mock-up that we're working to. So you've got objective arrows pointing where other objectives are. You've got local support for multiple players in the century. Just little things like that. Enemies left, just more information. And this is taken literally last night. This is what the game looks like now. And I know it's a bit like ooh, but it'll be fine. Don't worry. You can see we've zoomed out quite a lot. And it's really awkward playing with a 360 controller, trying to use your elbow to hit the print screen button. But anyway, because we don't have a pause, because pause isn't useful for rest, and so we're not doing it.
It's useful for me during development.
Oh, it's useful for audio and rest. Okay. But that's at the end. Hey, relief and applause. But we hope this isn't the end. We hope it's a never-ending story. I can't do it without that. And those are the guys, follow them on Twitter, they're great, I love them. Thank you. Just 4 minutes for questions if anyone has any, right? There's one right here.
What do you think made the difference in the end when you pitched the game and made it? Was it the polished graphics? Was it the game mechanics, the multiplayer?
What was it that made the difference between the first and second pitches? I think it's a combination of all those things, and that's a really crap answer, because it's kind of... I think that they believed in the idea of it, and they believed in our abilities to deliver on most of it, but then I think that, just anyone who's ever done any multiplayer game in development, it's just the biggest headache. It's insane. And then for 4 people who, I've got 10 years experience, and then it sort of drops down in terms of applied gaming experience. And we hadn't worked together formally before we'd done jams. So there was that, I think it was just trying to find those things that tipped their faith in us over that point of going, well, they probably could do it, to, yes, we're going to give them tens of thousands of pounds to do it, and we're going to trust them. I don't know, I guess it would be different on different games and different pitches, but for us, I think that demonstrating the network stuff was a technical thing that was okay, cool, they've done it, but also they just went and did that on their own. They didn't ask for us to do that, and that, again, I think that just showed our sort of commitment to it. It's like, guys, we're not going to take no for an answer. We really, really want to make this the best game it can be, so, yeah.
I know you do lots of developer blogs, which I have no idea how you find the time to do that. But do you find it useful going back through the history of all of those to see how far you've come?
Yes.
From the jam at the start to what's now?
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, and you all should really, I do try and do a daily dev diary on this on the YouTube channel, which is why it's down there in the bottom right. How do I find the time? I started the week that we had finished the pitch, and then so there's a week diary where it's us just doing stuff, hoping that it gets signed. We were you had good indications, but we weren't 100% sure. And then basically it means that up until the point that we'd announced the game, we couldn't release any of the dev diaries. So there's essentially a fortnight's backlog, which is kind of cheating, but it works out well. And yes, it really gives you look back at them and it's oh my god, how far we've come in. We've only been doing this since the start of February as well, by the way, so we started from scratch. And we've got to the point where, I mean, hopefully we'll play it at lunch, but yeah, it's a whole game. It just needs more now. I mean, it's kind of exciting. And yeah, like the diaries, I think I find them as useful as the 40 people that listen to us. But yeah, it's good. Yes.
You say you're about 8 hours for the jam.
8 hours, yeah.
Is the game, sorry, when you completed the jam, was the jam the entire game you'd envisioned, or was it much more than that when you finished it? It was like, there's more to this than this.
It was very much like the jam in and of itself. It was just like, wow, we came out at 8 hours, and it's actually kind of fun. And people were like, after the show, we took back to the hotel, and people were playing it at the bar, and it was, it had 4-player, cooperative, 2-stick shooter. People just generally like that kind of stuff, especially when they're drunk. The thing that really, I mean, personally, I don't know, like, I think for all of us, there's probably something like an element that was like, that's the one thing, that means that it could be more. For me, it was like the last thing we put in was the decades of relevance. And it was kind of a cheeky kind of, oh, this is a game jam, and these are games, and games are art, so we better make it mean something. It was literally the last thing we put in. It's like, solid, let's just like combine the score and the time that you're playing into some sort of like decades of relevance. And then I just sort of, hang on, that is actually like a really good point. When I started doing it, we had to present it the next day, and that kind of, defined the theme for me. And I was like, actually, there's more to this than I thought there was for me. And I genuinely relate to action heroes, that's what I know. But they made the movies and the characters and everything, like, they had a huge impact on me as a child growing up. And it's just wonderful to be able to sort of take that to some sort of celebratory extreme in this game. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, we didn't set out that morning, so we're going to pitch later. Last, is that it? Come grab me afterwards if you've got more questions. Thank you.